Imagine a man so wealthy he lost $2 billion a year to rats eating his cash, and he didn't even blink. Imagine a man who controlled 80% of the world's cocaine, a man who owned a private zoo, a private army, and the very soul of a nation. At his peak, Pablo Escobar was earning $420 million every single week. He wasn't just a drug dealer, he was a shadow god. But that kind of power isn't built on business, it's built on bones. From a petty street thief stealing tombstones to the most feared domestic terrorist in history, this is the uncut, blood-soaked saga of the king of cocaine. Fasten your seatbelts. This isn't a movie. This was the terrifying reality of Pablo Escobar.
December 1st, 1949, Rio Negro, Colombia. The world didn't shake when Pablo Emilio Escobar Gaviria was born, but it should have. He was the son of a humble farmer and a schoolteacher, living in the crushing grip of poverty in the suburbs of Medellín. But Pablo had a darkness in him from the start. While other kids played soccer, Pablo was running scams. He started small, fake lottery tickets and stolen cars. Then it got morbid. Local legend says a young Pablo would steal tombstones from graveyards, sand down the names, and resell them to grieving families. He once looked a friend in the eye and made a chilling vow. If I don't have 1,000,000 pesos by the time I'm 25, I'll kill myself. By the early 70s, he graduated from petty theft to the big leagues. It started with contraband cigarettes and marijuana, but then he discovered the White Queen, cocaine. It was cheaper to produce than gold and sold for 1,000 times its weight in the streets of Miami. The fuse was lit.
In 1976, the world changed forever. Pablo joined forces with the Ochoa brothers to form what would become the most efficient criminal machine in history, the Medellín Cartel. Pablo didn't just sell drugs, he revolutionized the industry. He seized control of the entire vertical. Coca leaves from the jungles of Peru, processed in high-tech laboratories hidden in the Colombian canopy, and shipped via a fleet of private planes. He even bought an entire island in the Bahamas, Norman's Cay, to serve as a literal cocaine airport for flights into Florida. At the height of his reign, he was moving 15 tons of pure cocaine every single day. The money was so fast and so thick that the cartel spent $2,500 a month just on rubber bands to hold the stacks together.
Before we dive into the Plata or Plomo era, where the bodies started dropping, do me a favor. If you're finding this breakdown intense, smash that like button and subscribe. We're uncovering the darkest chapters of history every week, and you don't want to miss what's coming next. Hit that bell. Pablo had a simple philosophy for anyone in his way: plata o plomo, silver or lead. You either take the bribe or you take a bullet to the brain. In 1982, Pablo tried to go legit. He got himself elected as an alternate congressman. He wanted the respect of the elite. But the elites, led by Justice Minister Rodrigo Lara Bonilla, called him out for what he was, a narco thug. Pablo's response? He sent 2 hitmen on a motorcycle to spray Bonilla's car with lead. That was the declaration of war. Pablo turned Medellín into a slaughterhouse. He offered a bounty for every police officer killed. Thousands of young sicarios, hitmen, took the deal. But Pablo didn't stop at individuals. 1985, he reportedly funded the M19 guerrillas to storm the Palace of Justice, resulting in the deaths of half the Supreme Court judges. 1989, in a desperate attempt to kill a presidential candidate, he planted a bomb on Avianca Flight 203. The plane exploded midair, killing 110 innocent people. The target wasn't even on the flight. Medellín became the murder capital of the world. The king was now a butcher.
By 1991, the pressure from the U.S. and the DEA was unbearable. Pablo feared one thing more than death: extradition. A grave in Colombia is better than a cell in the U.S., he famously said. So he made the government an offer they couldn't refuse. He would surrender, but only if he could build his own prison. They agreed. The result was La Catedral. It wasn't a prison, it was a fortress of luxury. It had a soccer field, a bar, a jacuzzi,
and a waterfall. He invited beauty queens for parties and top-tier chefs to cook for him. And from that hilltop mansion, guarded by his own men, he continued to run his empire and order executions like he'd never left. The world watched in disbelief as the world's most wanted man lived like a billionaire on vacation. The party ended in 1992, when reports emerged that Pablo was torturing and murdering associates inside the prison. The government finally moved to transfer him, but Pablo didn't wait. He simply walked out the back door and vanished into the mist of the Andes. This triggered the largest manhunt in human history. It wasn't just the Colombian police and the DEA anymore. A mysterious vigilante group called Los Pepes, people persecuted by Pablo Escobar, began hunting him. They were backed by his rivals, the Cali Cartel. One by one, Pablo's safe houses were burned. His family was trapped. The man who once held the world in his palm was now hiding in the slums, shivering and desperate. Legend says he once burned $2 million in cash just to keep his shivering daughter warm for a single night. The king was becoming a ghost.
December 2, 1993, one day after his 44th birthday, Pablo made a fatal mistake. He stayed on the phone too long with his son, Juan Pablo. Using high-tech U.S. triangulation, the search block pinpointed a modest house in a Medellín barrio. They kicked in the door. Pablo and his lone bodyguard scrambled onto the terracotta roof tiles. In a frantic, barefoot sprint for his life, the king of cocaine was cornered. 3 bullets struck him, one in the leg, one in the torso, and the final, fatal shot behind his ear. Images of his bloody body, slumped on that roof while soldiers grinned for the camera, flashed across every TV screen on Earth. The Medellín Cartel died that day on the roof. The era of the king was over.
Pablo Escobar left behind a complicated, bloody legacy. To some in the slums, he is Saint Pablo, the man who built houses for the poor. To the rest of the world, he is the monster who paved the streets of Colombia with the bodies of the innocent. His physical legacy? 4 hippos he imported for his zoo have now bred into a wild population of over 100, terrorizing the local ecosystem. A strange, living ghost of a man who refused to follow any rules. The throne was empty, but the war he started didn't end. The Cali Cartel was already waiting in the wings to take his place. Was Pablo Escobar a Robin Hood or a cold-blooded monster? Drop the comment Plata o Plomo below and let me know your thoughts. If you want to see how the Cali Cartel rose from his ashes, check out the video on your screen right now. Thanks for watching. Stay safe and stay curious.